5 cave diving enthusiasts on a guided tour, led by a diver, entering an unknown narrow area. For inexperienced divers, it's extremely dangerous. With the lack of gas, the guide diver beckons everyone to turn around and go back. But it's all too late. What happened to them? Will they ever make it back? This is today's cut. Temple of Doom. Event in front of the Natural Police Cave. Early morning of August 17, 1997. Eduardo Gore Day loads the last piece of diving gear into the van. Ready to go. This is an upcoming trip to Tulum. Diving trip with nearby natural scenery. For 5 tourists, 3 Americans, 2 Canadians. The trip was the culmination of their Mexican vacation. However, for Eduardo, it's just another daily tour. Eduardo is an owner. 3 years of experience as an open water diving instructor. Only 28 years old. Already around Cozumel Island. Hundreds of dives completed in Caribbean waters. But his cave and vault diving experience, limited to regular routes designed for tourists only. He knows enough to impress his clients, but far from the whole. Professional training required for cave diving. The team departs at 7 a.m. They started with Cozumel. Take the ferry to Playa del Carmen. Drive south to the first stop, Big Natural View. They did their first dive there. After exploring the underwater cave system, no one had any problems. Safe return to the surface. Early afternoon, the team arrived at the second destination, the natural scenery known as the Temple of Doom. This cave is known for its darkness, a depressing appearance, named for the challenging diving conditions. Unlike the spacious and bright entrance with a large natural scenery, this temple looks like nothing more than a jungle, a dark hole in the ground. It's about 3 meters in diameter. From the entrance of the cave, there is a wooden ladder that descends vertically for 5 meters. To the surface, the team atmosphere remains relaxed and cheerful. Everyone is getting ready for the second dive. 34-year-old nurse Rebecca Williams is from Boston, helping husband Mark check equipment. They've just got open water. Newbie with diving license. Only 12 dives were recorded in the dive log. You've never been in an overhead environment. A 42-year-old software engineer from Vancouver, Thomas Chen, has some experience. Recorded 30 dives. His wife Lisa completed 22 dives. The 5th visitor was a 28-year-old Chicago teacher, Joey Johnson. He has 20 diving experience, but tired from the morning's activities, decided not to participate in this dive. Of these 5 people, no one had the professional training required for cave diving equipment experience. They were carrying single cylinders, basic lighting equipment. Lack of soluble system. These configurations could potentially be used for open water or vault area diving, but if you enter the actual cave area, will be extremely dangerous. Eduardo gave a brief explanation before diving, highlighting the wonders they would see. They didn't say much about the risks. He mentioned staying in formation, focus on gas volume, without saying a word about the cave ring. Warning of specific dangers. Divers are high in nature, not in understanding. I completely ignore those. The key things that are not being said. One by one they dived into the water. Narrow wellhead. Roots and vines twisted around the limestone walls. Different from the natural scenery, there's almost no sunlight. The mysterious atmosphere makes visitors both nervous and excited. They tested the respirator, adjust the benefit controller, then sink into the dark waters. When you first start diving, they've traveled through what's called the photosphere. This is fresh water. The visual boundary formed when encountering deep salt water. It's about 10 meters deep. When crossing this interface, it causes a brief visual distortion. Further enhances the time-out experience. They entered into a larger sound. In the next 20 minutes, the team has been active in the vault area. That is, the area where the entrance light can still reach. Then Waldo made that fateful choice. He's not in the relative safety of the visible region. And this dive. Instead, he led the team to a place called Narrow Area of Our Lady's Passage. This passage is the vaulted area and the real cave demarcation line of the district. There are 2 warning signs set up there. The first is a common pictorial sign underwater. A diver is crossed by a red line. Prohibited. The second is a much clearer warning. It says stop and you'll die. Do not enter. Eduardo went through the warnings without hesitation, and his clients trust his judgment. They all followed. The passage of Our Lady is only about 1.5 meters wide, 2 meters high. There is only one nylon in the channel. Navigation guide rope is their only reliable direction reference. The depth of the passage has long been beyond the range of light. It was pitch black. They have entered a true cave environment. Specialized training is required here. Special equipment and rigorous operating procedures. After 10 minutes in the tunnel, they have reached about 120 meters away from the entrance, originally used for open water. Single gas cylinder for short dives. As the depth increases, physical exertion, and the invisible pressure of overhead coverage, curiosity is greatly accelerated. This is for inexperienced divers. Is extremely dangerous. Thomas Chan was the first to vent abnormally. He knocked and pressed to indicate lack of energy. Only then did Eduardo realize the danger, signal everyone to turn around and go back. But in the narrow passage, to organize 5 people to complete the U-turn operation caused a brief confusion. The fine sand deposited at the bottom is stirred by their footprints, instantly permeate the entire area. Visibility plummets from chicken rice to a few centimeters. Eduardo rushes towards the exit. I thought everyone was following behind, and Rebecca and Mark Williams, but separated in the darkness and dust. They lose their way. I mistakenly thought I was swimming towards the exit, actually swimming deeper and deeper. Thomas and Lisa were not separated from each other, but also lost direction, turned in another wrong direction. Eduardo looked back as he returned to the vault, frightened to find that no one was following behind. He checked the barometer. I found that my gas cylinder was also close to the bottom line. He comes to the surface, explained the situation to Joey on the shore. Then replace his full gas cylinder. Dive again. This time he expertly followed the lead rope down the front, about 90 meters deep into the passage. Finally met Lisa Chan. His respirator has fallen out of his mouth. Is desperately sucking on her husband. Thomas backup gas supply. Thomas air pressure is also close to zero. Eduardo. Share her respirator with Lisa immediately. Quickly lead them towards the exit. Thomas barely managed to maintain consciousness. Grab the guide rope with one hand and follow. When they reached the vault area, Edward asked the Chan couple to go up first. He immediately turned around and returned to the hole. Search for the missing Williams couple. Eduardo is about 50 meters deep into the channel. Finally found Rebecca Williams. He has lost consciousness. The air is empty. He brought him out of the water quickly. Joey helped pull him ashore and start CPR immediately. And at the same time, the Chen couple's condition has also deteriorated again. In the above float, due to gas exhaustion and extreme panic, they lose their way again. The couple separated in chaos. Thomas found himself still on the right path, so he chose to go up for help. I hope someone can assist Eduardo. Looking for missing examples, Lisa is running out of time in a panic. Decided to dive into the hole again. Maybe looking for Eduardo. I hope he can get himself out of this nightmare. And Eduardo at this time, still searching wildly in the hole. Finally, he found Mark Williams deep in the tunnel. He looks around, shocked to find that Lisa was outside the secret. Apparently he turned around and returned after being separated from his husband, but missed the rescue. Both of them were already floating in the water motionless. Gas cylinder empty, air conditioner solar term still in the mouth. There's nothing we can do. Required card when emergency services arrive. Williams has been taken to the nearest hospital in Tulum, despite the best efforts of the doctors. But he eventually suffered brain damage from drowning and lack of oxygen. Died that night. Mark Williams and Lisa, the remains of the minister. Then by local caves. Professional divers from the rescue team salvaged it. The official investigation pointed out that this tragedy has multiple causes. Tour guide leading without training. Inadequately equipped tourists enter the real cave area, knowing that there are clear warning signs. Despite the dive program's lack of gas management, it's not equipped with any kind of response. Emergency procedures for emergencies for the cave diving community. This is another one that could have been avoided. A tragedy that repeats itself. Become one of the many similarities in the Yucatan Peninsula. Another example of an accident. Until today, the piece at the entrance to the Virgin Passage. Warning sign still on. It says stop and you'll die. Do not enter. That's the end of today's story. See you next time.